Autumn 1940. The free world watched in fear as Hitler's tyranny consumed most of Europe. One by one, countries surrendered or quickly fell to Hitler's seemingly unstoppable Axis forces. Then at 3 a.m. on October 28, 1940, a representative of the Axis forces arrived at the home of Greek Prime Minister Ioannis Metaxas and demanded his surrender, or else his country would face an immediate and brutal military invasion. Metaxas defied expectations and replied with a single word, Oxi. No. Less than 3 hours later, the Axis forces descended on Greece, expecting it to quickly fall.
Και όταν κατά στις 10 η ώρα ξαγνάνησαν 9 αεροπλάνα Ιταλικά, τότε καταλάβαμε και βομβάρισαν τον Πειραιά, το λιμάνι του Πειραιά, και τότε καταλάβαμε ότι κάτι γίνεται. Και αμέσως να πούμε, διαδόθηκε τότε να πούμε ότι γίνεται πόλεμο.
The Axis invasion was as brutal as it was sudden. The Hellenic army was heavily outnumbered and outgunned, but rather than falling back to a defensive position, the Greeks shocked the world by launching a counterattack. Despite their superior arms and numbers, the Axis forces were forced to retreat. The Greeks maintained their pursuits, chasing the invading forces back to Albania. By mid-December, just 6 weeks after the invasion had begun, the Hellenic army would occupy nearly a quarter of Albania, immobilizing over 500,000 Axis troops. This led Winston Churchill to say, "Hence we will not say that Greeks fight like heroes, but that heroes fight like Greeks." News of Greece's victory flooded the radio airwaves and covered the front pages of newspapers around the globe. A grateful world celebrated. No one expected such a small nation to stop the seemingly unstoppable Axis forces. It was the first Allied victory of the war, and an act that inspired and gave hope to the world.
Συνοδούσε, τρέχαν, αγκάλια ζωή στα νου, οι καμπάνες σε βοήθησαν. Και στο σπίτι μου απέναντι ήταν μια εκκλησία, ήταν η καμπάνα. Στο άλλο χωριό που ήταν εκκλησίες και καμπάνες χτυπούσανε συνεχώς και φωνιάζανε «Ελευθερωθήκαμε, ελευθερωθήκαμε, ελευθερωθήκαμε».
President Franklin Roosevelt said of Greece's actions, "When the entire world had lost all hope, the Greek people dared to question the invincibility of the German monster, raising against it the proud spirit of freedom." Greece forced Hitler to change his timeline and set back the attack on Russia by 2 or more months. This allowed Russia crucial time to recover from earlier losses. Russia's field marshal said, "The Greek people delayed the German divisions during the time they could bring us to our knees." As well, Greece forced Hitler into the debilitating Russian winter, which marked the beginning of his end. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill said, "If there had not been the virtue and courage of the Greeks, we do not know which the outcome of World War II would have been." Because Greece was the first to stop the Axis forces and restore world hope, and because Greece's delay of Hitler inflicted a wound that would become fatal, this was one of the most courageous and consequential David versus Goliath victories for freedom and democracy in the modern world. The great legacy of the Greek people is carried on today by those modern-day Davids among us, who in the spirit of Oxi Day continue the fight for freedom and democracy around the world.